Okay, so with this one, what we're going to look at is the magic wand. And that goes into making selections. So the magic wand, what that does is it picks up like colors. So in this case, if I click on, well, let's look up here. So I'm looking here and it says tolerance is 32. Okay, so what that means is if once I select a pixel anywhere on the screen, it'll select a color range of 32 pixels around it. So that's what it'll look for with the colors. The smaller number this is, the tighter selection it makes. So let's see what that does. And also contiguous, I'll show you the difference between contiguous and non-contiguous. So if I look here and I'm going to do 32 at contiguous and I make my selection. Right, it's selected until it couldn't select any blacks anymore. There was a spot. It didn't select any of these blacks in here because contiguous was checked. Let's uncheck that. I uncheck that. That selects all the blacks within my image. All right, so let's put that back on. Let's change this from 32. Let's look at that selection. Okay, all right, good. So let's look and let's change this to 5. Let's make it really low. Okay, what did it do? Right? It only selected a range of 5 pixels within it. It was really a tighter selection than what I need. Or it's a tighter selection, and that's what I need, which is great. Let's look at a couple things. Let's say you did this just to show you the power of selections. We're going to select that. And there's a couple things that it didn't select very, very well because of this, right? You can see that's in here. I don't want that. And let's say this was the best selection that you could get. You can use your lasso tool here, and I could use minus, and I could say, you know what, I don't want any of this to be in my selection. And I don't want any of this to be in my selection, and any of that. And in fact, I want to add to my selection over here because it didn't do the best job of selecting it. Oops. I had minus on instead of add. Okay, right? So I'm kind of getting that to the selection. Let's move over here. Sit down here. I also don't want this in my selection. And I don't want any of this in my selection. Right, so you can go through and you can just select things. You can select things out that you don't want, and then that gives a little tighter of a selection. Okay. But in this case, let's deselect this. What do? I move this guy? I move him. Okay. In this case, what we want to do is we just want to do a tighter selection, which is using the magic wand. We're going to change this to 5. That made a good selection. Select that out. You can see much tighter, much better. You can see that there's still some parts in here that I want to minus out because I don't want that to be a part of it. All right, let's get our lasso tool and let's minus out that selection and this over here. And were there any other spots? Right, I don't want that in my selection. Or that. All right, so now I have a cleaner thing, and now I could go in here and just delete out that background, and I don't know, I could put in a new background. Right, so now it's kind of deleted out. Something else that you could do with the selection is I have the selection, right, and selecting actually all of the black. But in this case, I actually want to select the rhino. So if I did select inverse, it flips that selection, so now I only have the rhino as a selection. And some weird pieces down here. So I now have the rhino, so I could do Command J, and you can see all I get is that rhino. So I could do, you could do whatever you want now that you have this rhino there. All right. I also could use the other tool that I could use is the quick selection tool. Now the quick selection works the same way, except that I kind of click. Well, it's slow for some reason. I could kind of click and drag, and you can see it's expanding as I'm moving. Expanding very slowly, I might add. Usually it's a little bit faster than that. Okay, let's try that inside the rhino here. Right, so you can see as I'm dragging, you can see it's kind of expanding out these pixels. And you can do that whole thing with the rhino, or you can do it with other things. And we'll play a little bit with that a little bit further on. That takes a little bit more finesse and dealing with other things. But that's the same idea. In this case, pretty solid background. Magic wand is the way to go.